I guess.
Go off and move on and do the project.
I like this guy. I like you, man. This is great.
They assigned Brad Garlinghouse, and he can't talk about XRP. You ever fucking thought about why he can't talk about XRP?
They've got the power to do that now. Just ask any of those truckers in Canada a couple of years ago.
They do. But what do the new world elitist fuckbags always want more of?
Power.
Xanther says, damn, dude, what was on that pizza?
That was a good-ass pizza.
Why on earth, when you're in that cave, would you not grab some of the fucking gold sitting there and run?
Because I don't want a dragon chasing after me the rest of my life who wants to eat my family.
Guess who told me about silver, though?
Someone to do with XRP.
Our stupid fucking mascot, Cartoon Bear.
Who's Cartoon Bear?
Terrible guy.
I don't know who that is.
I missed that opportunity. God chose me for this moment to become wealthy, for this great wealth transfer, not for Bitcoin. I'm okay with that. It's who I was forged into in the last 10 years. I wouldn't trade for 1 million Bitcoin. I wouldn't trade for 1 million XRP. I became who I needed to become in this moment. What's up, everybody? We have what everyone's been waiting for, the legend, Jake Claver. And thank you for coming on the show today, brother.
Absolutely, dude. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you, man.
Epic intro, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I made that last night. I was up till like midnight. I was like super tired this morning. Couldn't sleep. I was like, we're going to have Big Dog on. So yeah, I'm Easy XRP. This channel is dedicated deep dive channel. I did thousands of hours of research trying to figure out what the heck they're going to use these technologies for. And I'm going to try to avoid cussing like a sailor, like my usual self, just because I know you got some people here might be sensitive to that. But you know, 99% of cryptos are going to be killed off intentionally. Mm-hmm. And you know, a lot of people are like so excited, hoping for the Clarity Act and stuff like that. I'm like, that's designed to wipe out 98% of crypto. If you, I mean, so yeah, let's get into this. A man that needs no introduction, Jake Claver. I'm going to introduce you anyways, in my own way. So everyone calls Jake legend. What makes Jake a legend? Unlimited ability to handle FUD. Unlimited ability to handle an endless stream of redundant, basic-ass questions. Ability to handle and process criticism when his prediction takes longer than we all thought. Strength and courage to share a semi-unbelievable price prediction with the common sheep-like folk and endure their wrath. Highly heightened sense of awareness and insight to that which cannot be seen and has not yet come to pass. Built an entire corporation from the ground up when he saw a lack of strength for security or security for long-term wealth and crypto storage. Future trillionaire, 100% liquid, very new future. Welcome, Jake Claver, a certified level 589 crypto warrior.
That's probably one of the best intros I've ever got. Thank you very much for the kind
words. It's how I genuinely feel. I don't share anything on this channel unless it's authentic. Like I love people. I love people more than money. I love people. And I know I get, you know, I'm one of my greatest gifts that is just like reading people. I can read you through the YouTube and understand like core purpose. This guy's just trying to help. So it drives me nuts when people are like so negative Nancy and complaining and whining in the comments. I'm like, it's asinine after a while. So kudos to you for being able to handle that. Oh, so I was going to do kind of a 3-part, you know, conversation with you and I. Part 1, we'll have an XRP conversation because that's what everyone comes here for. Yeah. But I also, in part 2, I wanted to give you like an opportunity to kind of talk about yourself, you know, a little bit more. And so at any point in time when you're with this conversation with me, just feel free to like, let me know like, oh, hey, like no comment or pass. Like I won't judge you if like there's something that you don't want to talk about or something like that. Totally good on our end. No judgment will be passed. So my only goal as Easy XRPZ today is to not ask a single question that has already been asked to you and to give you a breath of fresh air from the vast crypto space in which they beat the same dead horses over and over without apology. Does it feel that way a little bit sometimes?
I think a lot of people come into the space, right? And people have been here for a long time, and it may sound redundant to people that have already overcome those objections or thought through those things. But I mean, we finally got some momentum here in the market. There's a lot of new people that come in and out. And so I try to have the patience and grace to be able to just, if you're brand new to this, you don't have the context or the understanding that somebody that's been here 3 to 5 years would have.
Yeah.
And I genuinely, like you said, want to help people and meet you where you are. So it is redundant, but I don't mind it if it does help somebody.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's the same thing on my channel. Like, people ask some simple questions, and then sometimes people in my comments kind of like let them have it. Like, this guy's a troll. He doesn't get it. I'm just like, oh, same team. This guy just is trying to understand.
Yeah, we're trying to help everybody here. It's okay.
Yeah, give him a little bit of a break there. So next question is, why, in your opinion, do you think it's almost like no one can see what's going on big picture? Almost.
So, I mean, everybody has their domain of expertise. And this is something that I love about the majority of people that produce content. I watch over 40 different creators on a regular basis that have domain expertise in separate verticals. And they have blinders on, but that's also a good thing because that allows them to go really deep and really understand a certain topic. So for me, I try to look at things from a 30,000-foot view and take context from each one of them and put together a thesis around that for macro over a longer duration. And most of them don't have the context around crypto. There's people that understand the stock market or the bond market or what's going on in treasuries or even macroeconomics across nation states and how that's playing into this with the war and everything else, and energy and commodities, gold and silver. But they don't quite have the context around digital assets to see how that's going to impact that, nor, some of them believe we're moving into hyperinflation, but we have all these deflationary technologies that are culminating here for a deflationary event. I think it's difficult unless you have, I went to school for finance, right? And at the time, I was going through it and I thought, oh, this is boring. Most of it I don't use anymore, but there were a few classes I took that gave me the context and basic understanding so that when I'm listening to these individuals, I actually understand what they're saying and then can, derive a higher view. And so I don't know that there's just, and again, I'm not tooting my own horn here. We haven't seen everything play out that I've stated. I think we will, but I think there's just a lot of context that most people don't have in order to be able to put the whole picture together.
I have seen that time and time again. Like, when I'm in this space, like, I felt convicted, 7-8 months ago. I've been in this space for 10 months. I had 16 years of deep dive conspiracy theory, like, research under my belt. So when I met the future one world reserve currency, it was like, bingo. Right. And I always thought we were going to just be absolutely screwed when they did this. Like, there's going to, because there's going to be a great financial reset. Yep. And I'm like a small business owner. Like, I am wrecked when this thing plays out. And then 10 months ago, I called my best friend from high school and he just goes, hey, did you hear what happened to XRP? And I was like, what the hell is XRP, dude? I was like, I had no clue what that is. And so I did my deep dive, and just like he expected me to, because he was curious about XRP and he wanted to know. He's like, okay, Chris will figure it out. Like, if there's something there, if there's a there, Chris will find it. Yeah. And here I am 10 months later, still I'm at the bottom of the rabbit hole, just like still seeking out stuff, information, and sitting here with you, the legend, Jake Claver. So it's been a cool journey.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, God's good. Let's just say that.
God is great.
Yeah, I'm just going to turn my volume up here real quick because I want to be able to hear you just a little bit better. Sorry about that. I'm just getting used to this all here. Okay, cool. Back to full screen. Okay. So, Jake Claver, you are where I gained maybe, like, respectfully so, a big percentage, but like 5% of my conviction comes from you and your domino theory. And then, of course, your plethora of knowledge outside of that. Like, I've seen people bounce questions off of you, and you have that ability to respond without a flinch because it's in there. That's super impressive. Like, especially like at like your age, because like, I'm 38, you're 35. To build that plethora of knowledge even within the amount of time frame you had, even within the realm of what you have, I can tell you're a deep diver. Let's be fair. You know, like you are not just sitting there playing patty cake at work. And then like when you get home, just like, oh, I'm mentally turned off. Like respect. Yeah. But I wanted to mention that because I feel like, and this is my next point, is that so many people rely on you, and that's got to be a big burden to bear, but they shouldn't be relying on just you. Like you say that all the time, and yet people like don't listen. Like the one thing they won't listen to you about is go listen to other people and build your own conviction. Like it's
on almost every live and every podcast that I'm on.
Yeah. And so like, you know, like this is a good opportunity to talk about like last year, like at New Year's. I was over leveraged AF, not because of you, in case you were right, not in a negative way. I full well knew the risk of what it's like to be over leveraged. I knew that risk. I took that risk for my family and for my asset. And I got a 30+% pump off that, you know? And then everyone who comes out and complaining and comments, and like, I remember I got so mad that day, dude. I wanted to just freaking box people for you. I was like, and I know that you're a tough son of a bitch and you can take it. Like you've gone through it, you handled it. But like, I got to say, like that pissed me off reading all the comments in there. I was like, oh, okay. So Jake Claver's your friend and you love him when he is right. And you have like good news come out that week. And like, oh, one of Jake Claver's dominoes, you know, fell or something like that. And one of his bingo cards got filled. But on the week when you're slightly off or like super excited that this might play out just like us, just like the other 100 moon dates we thought it was going to be, all their whole conviction, or if you can even call it that, just falls apart like a house of cards. And then they come after you. It's so unfair. It drives me nuts. I really wanted to make that point because it's just like they see you, the community, a lot of them. And there's a lot of good people in this community. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to like hate on people. I'm just trying to make awareness here because it's like, I'm kind of sick of you getting beat up the way you do. Like I see what you're trying to do. I see what you're trying to help. And it's almost as if like you're not allowed to be like 1,000% pro XRP and like the tip of the spear for like XRP army. And also want to build a business to help people securely store it for lifetime wealth. So it's almost as if you're not allowed to do that because then people, you know, start to ask questions.
You know, there's a line that we've walked, right? So I've just continued to roll all the money that we've made back into the business. And candidly, through the bear market here, it hadn't been all sunshine and rainbows, right? Like after the end of last year, we had a decent cash position and we burnt through pretty much all of that just to maintain and continue to grow the business and make sure we're in a position to actually help people on the other side of this deal. And like people run the numbers on the mastermind and other stuff, and they're like, oh, you must be rolling in it. Hadn't bought a new house, hadn't done anything to upgrade my lifestyle. Like we do okay, right? Like doing better than I was when I was, you know, doing industrial sales and stuff years ago. But at the same time, to your point, there's a lot of people that count on me. We have 82 employees at our company. At one point, we were a little bit more than that. We're close to 100 employees at the company. And then we've got, you know, all of our clients. We have over 5,000 clients that count on our services, and we have to be able to fulfill and launch products and build technology and do everything that we're doing, all while managing the compliance and regulatory constraints that we have. And I don't know. It is a lot of pressure, like you mentioned. But I also knew what I signed up for, and I didn't see anybody else that was going to do this. If we don't accomplish what we're trying to, which I think we will, people are stuck out in the cold when this does happen. There's not DeFi on the XRP ledger, safe DeFi today. And my consideration around safe involves custody, insurance, all the things that you would expect from financial institutions if you were participating in a product. There's open source ways that you can earn on your XRP, which are not regulatory compliant currently here in the US. I think they'll get there over the next, 3 to 6 months. But the whole premise behind setting all this up was to make sure that people had a place where their stuff was safe and they had a way to be able to leverage the asset so they didn't have to liquidate it on the way up and be able to maintain that and create generational wealth. Because that's my thesis, is that this will continue up and to the right for a long, long time. And it'll stabilize at different points. I mean, I don't think Evernorth would have chose that name if they didn't believe the same thing, right? So if people don't have the resources and their only option is to liquidate in order to be able to get liquidity or capitalize on their investment, there's a huge loss there for the community over the long term. And I'm not saying not to take profits. I think people should take profits. You should have an exit strategy. You should understand what you need in your life in order to be able to achieve the objectives you're looking for. But if people wanted that option to be able to put it to work or hold it somewhere and maintain that over generations, that didn't exist. And when I would have conversations, before I ever started charging for anything, I did over 60 consults completely free. Some of the largest clients that we have now were people that reached out from Twitter when I was doing spaces back in the day.
Wow.
And again, no charge, no nothing, just got on there, tried to help them, give them some information. But to build something bigger, to employ people, to create a real solution, it requires capital. It's not like it's a free thing. And I didn't ever want to go out and raise a bunch of money from a private equity fund or a venture fund or the BlackRocks or the larger players out there, because
that would probably ruin what you're doing.
I'd be under the thumb, right? I wouldn't have the freedom to make sure that our people are taken care of and their interests are put first. I'm now beholden to people on the board and shareholders and the whole conflict of interest that exists in that dynamic. And so we've, like I said, we've been able to grow this aggressively because of the community and their support and our efforts, because they see what we're trying to do for the entire XRP family. And like you mentioned, there are people that don't catch that. They don't understand it for some reason. They're in opposition for it, and that's okay, right? Like I said, I knew I would be dealing with all of this when I signed up for it. But for me, the impact that we're going to be able to have for the broader community and everybody that's holding this token and the broader crypto space is well worth the scrutiny and the extra stress for me.
That's fantastic, man. And kudos to you for having the insight to put something like that together. And I know that it was a mutual benefit to yourself, because you're like, I want somewhere to safely store my
I solved all my own problems. Like that was the whole premise behind the business.
Then people were like, set me up, bro.
Yeah. We just want to be an option for people. There are going to be other people that move into the space over the next 12 to 18 months. We're having multiple conversations with other large exchanges and institutions. This is on the radar at this point now, because they've seen that there's actually demand in the market for it. But we are ahead, and I think we'll continue to stay ahead as long as we're able to deliver for people. And that's, candidly, what the only thing that keeps me up at night is making sure that we have yield products and ways to generate returns that are sustainable and safe. And you have ways to be able to, post your assets with a prime broker, get liquidity, or do other things with it that don't require you to sell it and allow you to access liquidity.
That's great, man. That's super cool that you're doing that. Someone's got to do it. Like I said, I think you're the tip of the spear for XRP Army in several different ways. And that's just, it's not trying to hype you up or anything. It's just what it is. You know what I mean? Like, you're out there on the forefront, just plowing through shit, and people are behind you like, what's he doing over there, man? Like, what's he got going on over there? And then you turn back after all this work you've done, dude, it's still XRP. XRP is the one. They're going to power this thing on. And then everyone's like, is he sure?
Right.
So yeah, it's so funny.
I wouldn't make, $1 bet personally on this if I wasn't absolutely sure.
You're not a dice roller, just kind of
no. I go to the casino with $100, and if I double my money, I'm out. And if I lose it, I'm also done. Right? Like that's the risk tolerance I have for risk.
XRP Army. There's a reason they call us XRP Army. And you're 4-star general, brother. So crypto's like a giant casino arcade for adults. They were counting on you to never notice the door in the back of the room that leads to the real purpose of why they created cryptography. You walk in the front door of crypto, get hit with all these exciting and fun sounding crypto projects like Canton, Ethereum, Solana. And then, all these promises of what these projects will do for you, the people, you're going to be sovereign and all this stuff. And it's a great, I hope that comes true. But I believe, after all my thousands of hours of deep dives, that is all an illusion to distract from really going and opening that back door and finding out that there's a whole nother world back there. And wait, they're building something back here. And every deep dive I've done, it's like it comes back up. They're either referencing the XRP ledger, referring to something like the XRP ledger, or some people have come out and said the XRP ledger. But it's like the casino, like, and that's why I love the Node network. Let me get that straight. Like, I did that fun little intro in the beginning because, like, you know, I doubt you got a chance to watch the debate that they didn't say for a long time they debated me, and they didn't post it as a debate like yours and Mickle's because my channel is small. You know, they didn't expect me to come in there and do what I did. But so I mean, yeah, I think that people like the Node network. They're very intelligent people, but they get stuck in that casino. They get stuck in this tunnel vision of like, oh, this is like all fun and games for retail. And it has nothing to do with us, the big picture.
I would agree to that to some extent. And that's the paradigm that's existed in the space for the past 15 years, right? Without the regulatory compliance and guardrails and, you know, oversight that we now have, it's been that way. And I think it's been purposeful. Like you said, if you wanted to see all the pitfalls and allow something to grow without constraint and see all the possibilities that existed within it, you'd make it an open, decentralized network where anybody could participate and build things and do cool stuff and also fail and fail big. And then you would utilize those failures and be like, we have to regulate this now, you know? But now you've seen all of the pitfalls and all the issues, and now the institutions can take all that information and build the infrastructure in a way where they're going to be able to just jump over all that. And I think that's what the XRP ledger was intended for from the jump. But you have to be able to drive liquidity into an ecosystem to trial things. And that's where I think people miss a lot with XRP in particular. They're like, well, it's not a high price, so it's not being used. They've had private ledgers and many other things that have been built over the last decade that they've trialed with institutions. But they still have to test the mainnet, and they got to make sure that there's going to be continuity there and it's not going to go down or have issues. And in the small applications or the POCs or the MVPs that these corporations or institutions want to make sure that the regular network, the mainnet that they're going to be selling back to is working, you have to have liquidity there. And so that's benefited retail because we've had the opportunity. There's never been anything else I've seen that you could invest in the infrastructure that the banks were going to use before they started using it. Yep. Unless you were in, you know, Silicon Valley and you happen to know somebody and you got on a cap table, and like, they're in very closed off rooms. Most people don't get access to this type of stuff. So, you know, there's an order of operations that has to happen for something to actually become the back end system for settlement globally. That's not a small task.
No,
and it would
the
take,
largest task.
Yeah, like I can't think of anything bigger, really. So, but all of these things have to be trialed and tested and assured, and like these protections have to be put in place. When I was at Swell in 23, they talked about identity and custody. We finally have those two things now here in 2026, and really, you know, toward the end of 2025 is when we got the amendment for digital ID, and we've got credentials and permission domain and permission DEX. And now they're starting to build a cool, sexy stuff on top of that.
Yeah.
And that's the part that people care about. All of this boring stuff, you know, but it doesn't move the market. The boring things are the bedrock, the cornerstone, the things that have to be in place prior to the real adoption of it. And I think we're on the precipice of that now. And you're, you know, kind of seeing that because now banks are looking at it. They're going to be issuing stable coins. You got the CFTC and the SEC finally back at the table issuing guidance. So yeah, I know it's been a long time, and it seems like they're, you know, David, to his point, he's like, they've shipped nothing. They've been shipping a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's been shipped. It's just not adopted at an enterprise level yet. And when it is, there's going to be a large discrepancy in the valuation that things sit at today versus what it has to be in order to facilitate that.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. You've got such great insights. I'm so grateful to have you on the channel today, just from the bottom of my heart, because these are all questions I've wanted to ask you, because I know you know the answers to these questions, but no one asks you. They always ask you the same not dumb question. Sorry, there's no such thing as a dumb question. The same questions, you know, like, why don't you just go watch one of his lives from 7 lives ago? He'll probably answer that question. And, you know, and it's like, so when people like, it shocks me when I see like FUD for you, like negative comments about you on another channel. And then like you say something on that live or something like that, or on that channel, And they go, well, I wonder what he thinks about this. I'm like, if you watched 2 of his lives, you would hear what he thinks about that. So you can tell they're not watching your stuff. They're just out there using the same old insults, the same old easy, low hanging fruit. Drives me nuts.
It's the same thing on, the FUD that's out there. People say that Ripple can manipulate transactions on the network, or that there's an unlimited supply, or like, it's just been stuff that's been regurgitated long enough that people listen to somebody that they believe is an authority, and they haven't done the due diligence to know if it's true or not, but they heard it from somebody else that they have used as an authority. And so it just gets, passed along. It's kind of like when you whisper into somebody else's ear and then they pass it down the line,
Yeah.
To your point earlier, I think critical thinking is paramount in this space. And I encourage everybody to build that skill, because if that applies to everything that you're doing, and you can build that in this space. Like, I think that's part of the cool thing, that a lot of the skills, traits, and beliefs that you would need in order to be successful are required to understand what's happening and participate in this revolution. And on the other side of it, those will serve people really well post price appreciation.
Oh, 1000%. Like I was even gonna mention that. I had like a note for it, because like running a business is here it is. Building a small business is 10,000 times harder from the ground up than holding a stupid little digital asset that occasionally depreciates. Like, do you know how many times I've lost money on a business transaction? How many times I screwed something up on business that took me months to recover from, if not years? Holding crypto is sissy shit, like child's play. Like, compared to what you're doing, building nothing from the ground up. Like, I mean, you got a bigger business than I do. Could you attest to that? Like,
you get to choose your hard, right? Again, applies to any area of your life. If you are overweight and lazy and you have health problems, that's hard. If you work out and keep yourself in good shape and eat right, and it requires a bunch of discipline, that's hard. So I'm not saying that, one may be harder than the other. I think it's all relative. I think the more stress that you have been under and the more that you've accomplished, you build a muscle. There's some callus there that you build over time, and you're able to handle more stress. Just like working out, right? Like, your muscles don't grow from just sitting on the couch. Like, you have to go stress them, they tear, and then you rebuild. And that is a skill set that most people prefer comfort.
Yep.
And again, like, that's just human nature. I'm not faulting anybody for that. But what is required to scale a large organization? I worked in M&A for about a year while I was making money in crypto, working with business owners to help them scale their business. And they would get to $3 to $10 million. And that is the hardest spot to be in as a business owner. You're successful enough that you've got product market fit, you have clients, but you are not out of the day-to-day at that point. And you are likely wearing all of the hats.
Yep.
At that point. So to be able to hire other people, that's a skill set in and of itself. Cultivate morale in your corporation, manage culture, deal with employee problems, deal with customers. Like, there was a guy I watched the other day, and I think he manages a business that does about 4 or 5 million. And he was like, all these people talk about working on your business. I don't have time to work on my business. And I'm like, I know, like, I've been there. I know what that's like. But you have to be willing to give up and control on things and delegate and teach other people, to put them in positions and allow them some authority to make those decisions on your behalf. Otherwise, you just stay in that position. And to your point, just making an investment and living your life day to day and going to your 9 to 5, not anywhere near as much pressure as somebody trying to scale a multi-million or a billion-dollar corporation. But again, I'm not trying to fault anybody. Everybody has their way of gaining their wealth, right?
And their own threshold for pain.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I would say. Like, to scale a business, you have to have a very high pain tolerance and be willing to suffer for an extended period of time with no results, which is exactly what people are doing in the XRP community. I put out a video the other day that talked about Think and Grow Rich and all the different principles in that book and how those apply to XRP holders.
That was a good
People
video.
are- Thank you. People are cultivating those skills, traits, and beliefs, and I think that's almost on purpose for this asset. If you've been here 5, 7, 9, 10 years, however long people have been here, you probably have a lot of persistence. You have faith. You have the ability to sustain volatility and frustration and emotions that you're going to feel and still maintain that conviction and can continue to press forward or even dollar cost average, right? So I would say it's definitely not the same level of pressure. But again, it's still working on those things so that people are going to have those traits and at least be able to build on them and have the opportunity to do a lot with this on the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well said, man. So on our channel, and I think the reason a lot of people like, relatively quick manner of fashion, like found my channel was the exact opposite reasons I thought they would find my channel. Like when I first made my channel, I felt this conviction because I was like, man, if I can help like 3 to 5 more people, much like you, it's like if I can help 3 to 5 more people see this opportunity, that's all you have to do is simply go to like Coinbase and just click buy 100 XRP, and like you'll be protected in the future. Like even if you don't want to research crypto, like if I get up 3 to 5 people, what happened real quick, because 4 months ago I started really regularly making videos. What happened real quick was I found that there was almost like all of these battered and bruised, beat up XRP army soldiers that were like, oh hey, this guy's fresh. He's not beat up yet. Like, let's, what's he saying? Like, this is still happening. Like, and it was refreshing to them. And it's been an honor to serve in this community that I built. I've got this beautiful little family that we built over here on the XR Easy Peasy channel. And I never intended to try to get subscribers or try to get views. And you were likely the same way. You're just like, oh, I'm talking about this because this is a thing, and and this is important to me. And so it was crazy how many people came, and now it's like I have this whole separate family that's like within like this YouTube community. We built like a Discord group, like a micro one, and it's been a beautiful thing. Like what would you like to say about maybe your journey on YouTube and all that, Beyond Broke Mastermind? Like good things, bad things?
Yeah, same deal. Like I started making content on Facebook. I would go live every morning in 2020, and I'd sat down and prayed about some things and felt like that's what I was supposed to be doing. And in the beginning, nobody cared what I had to say. I'm still blown away and super humbled all the time that so many people care what I have to say, because I don't think I'm the end all be all or anybody special. I'm a regular dude just like everybody else. I have problems in my life, have family, have hobbies and interests, and but I've spent the 10,000 hours required to become an expert in a certain domain, and if I can help people shortcut some stuff and give them some answers that they're looking for. I spent a year and a half trying to figure out how I was wrong about XRP.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't disprove myself. And so that's why, you said earlier, people are either fire shots or ask questions, and I'm able to just answer the question. And if I don't know, I tell people I don't know. But for the most part, I've already thought through all of those pitfalls and why that's not true or why it is true. And so that's why I'm able to regurgitate it quickly. But
yeah,
back to the progression of the YouTube and social media. 2 years, nobody cared what I had to say. I just made content and talked about stuff that I thought was cool. Started to gain some traction on Twitter, and some other people were nice enough to have me up on their lives or their spaces, and I got to talk about stuff that I did with taxes and estate planning and how I'd set my own stuff up. And enough people would join those at a certain point. And I thought, oh, well, I'll just start doing them on Saturdays, and if there's a few people in there that listen and it helps them, awesome. And so I did that for about 8.5, 9 months. Never asked anybody for anything. I was just there every Saturday morning, would do my 2-hour little spiel before my wife got up and drank her coffee. And, it came to a point where I met Max Avery. We went down and met Jimmy Valley for the red folder thing and the committee that he put together. Because again, I was on Twitter and people were like, hey, you seem knowledgeable enough, you might want to participate in this. And so we went down there and met Max on Twitter.
Really?
Didn't know him before that.
Wow.
And we kind of knew one another because we were both, he was in powerlifting and I was in bodybuilding. And so
yeah, there's a connection there.
Like you just, kind of who else is out on social media doing that type of stuff at a higher level. And so I'd heard of him, but I didn't know who he was. And he was like, hey, I'll just come down and grab you in my truck because you're kind of on my way down, going down to Houston anyway. And, we'll ride down there together. And I was like, all right, well, I'm either going to get murdered or this is going to be awesome. I don't know which one of these things is going to be. But it ended up working out great. I got to know Max really well on that drive. If you ride 4 hours in a truck with somebody both ways, good conversations. And a couple weeks after that, he was kind of at a spot in his career where he had set up some businesses and done well and was kind of coasting and was like, I'm looking for the next thing. And I kind of was too. And I said, I've been part of these other mastermind groups. And we talked about that on the way down there and back. And I said, well, would you want to do like a community for, people on Twitter and people that are listening to my stuff? And he was like, yeah, I help you do it. So January 6th of 23, I got on the spaces that morning and I was like, never asked you guys for anything. I don't even know if y'all are going to care about this or not or want to do it, but we're going to do a community, set up a Discord, a website and all this stuff. And here's a Stripe link for $25 because we didn't have the money to I had all my money in crypto and CDT. And we were like, well, if there's a product market fit here and there's enough interest, then we'll build the website and do the things. And we had 150, 200 people sign up for $25 a month. And we had no website, no, nothing.
Yeah.
So we had to scramble for 2 months and put that together. And then, he's been instrumental in all of this. He's the man behind everything, helps, edit all the content. He, my first videos, if you go back and watch them on YouTube, I'm on my laptop with no microphone, the camera's just the laptop camera. He's like, you have really good content. Like you have a good angle on this stuff and know what you're talking about, but your presentation's garbage. So we're gonna have to fix that up for you. So he came down and, we built a lot of the background and everything else that we have here. And, it's been a wild ride since then. And none of this would be possible without him. So just shout out to Max Avery for all of his help on stuff. But then we got on YouTube, we're making some content, and a couple of people were nice enough to have me on their channel, right? Because if you're making a video every single day, it kind of gets monotonous. You kind of, like you said, you say the same thing over and over again. People get bored with it. So people are nice enough to have me on, Melanie Elmore, Jackson Lewis, and other people that had some traction in the space. And, people started to see that I wasn't, I am at least logical in my thought pattern. And we started to aggregate some views there. And then, we tried to continue to put out good content and be consistent with lives and other stuff over time. And I think that's really what it comes down to is if you do it long enough, you'll start to garner a following, whether you wanted that or not. Yeah. I am at the level of famous, if you want to call it that I would like to stay for forever. I don't really want to go out in public and people know who I am. But I will say when I go out in public and I'm walking through an airport or wherever, people will be like, you're that XRP guy. And they run over and they're excited about it. And they tell me about, how they got into it. I love it. It's fantastic. So if you see me out in public somewhere, don't hesitate, come up, have a conversation. Happy to talk to anybody. But that's perfect. I don't want everybody to know who I am. I didn't get into that for that. And honestly, if I could make the impact that I want to have for everybody without doing the social media, I would.
Yeah. The anonymity. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But for me, I like I said, there's costs that come along with that. And I've just reconciled that and been like, okay, in order to be able to accomplish and serve people and make the impact that I want to have, these are the costs that are associated. And that's just part of the deal.
Yeah, 1000%. There's tons of people on my channel that were like, man, I'm shocked to show your face on there. I'm like, this message was more important than, because yes, we are going to become instantaneously wealthy. And yes, there will be some dirtbags out there trying to steal crypto. And yes, there will be some things that we'll have to look into and avoid, like more money, more problems. I agreed with that last night. I was like, so if you become a multimillionaire and your best friend comes up to you and asks you for $1 million for a business loan, you say no, and he gets pissed at you, that's not a problem. So, I was listing off problems while that was going on. I was like, well, how did you guys, the question wasn't like, oh, does it change your character if you have more money? A lot of people were asking the question like, oh, it depends on who you are, because it's like, I can, oh yeah, dude, David. Yeah. It depends on who you are. It's like, yes, there are more problems. Where are you going to store all this capital? Where are you going to store it all? That's a problem. So I digress, but I want to mention that from my channel's perspective, we've come to the conclusion, at least I have, that they intend to power this bitch on. Like, so many people get hung up with the whole thesis around, like, you know, oh, how can XRP go to this? Like, my favorite one's market cap. Like, you know, it's just like, it's so sad. They think they're literally just going to take like this big bucket and dump like $2 quadrillion of cash into XRP, and then you know, it's
not quite how it works.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, well, that is one aspect of it, but I mean, it's something that a lot of people get hung up on, you know, and you know, they tend to power it on. They always did when they started this thing. This has been planned for decades. Like, a lot of people don't know that, like, you know, David Schwartz was also a part of the project for Bitcoin. And I believe, going, you know, deep, and I won't go too deep on this live with you, because out of respect for people that watch for you, you know, it's like, I don't want to like scare them away, but like, you know, these were CIA, NSA, PSYOP projects, and they launched Bitcoin first, even though they already had the XRP ledger. They launched Bitcoin first as a distractionary measure, like a flare, you know, and the retail saw that. I was like, oh. And then over here, they're like, oh, don't look at XRP. No. And then they do the SEC lawsuit, suppress it. And they're like, oh, yeah, don't look over here. Don't look at that shit coin. And the whole time, like, every deep dive I do, I'm like, it's XRP. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, he can't talk about XRP, but he can talk about Bitcoin. He can talk about Ethereum. He can talk about Solana. But, you know, he gets asked on live mainstream TV, and they go, what about an XRP ETF? He goes, I can't talk about that. Do you know how much
you don't want me to talk about that?
Yeah, and you don't want me to talk about that. Like, I was like, good save, Larry. Like, yeah, you really saved that one with your NDA. I was like, you know, think of the type of power there has to be, like a higher entity power, for Larry Fink to have to not be able to talk about something, because he's about as high up there as you get before you get to like the top 300. So it's like, you know, think of the type of power it takes to tell Larry Fink, like, don't talk about this, and for him to listen. I mean, that's a big project, whatever it is. And then you go on a different, you know, tangent with Larry Fink, and Larry Fink comes out and says, after that, forgetting he had said that, he just goes, we intend to tokenize the entire world and run it across one ledger. I'm like,
yeah, the World Economic Forum this year. Yeah.
I wonder what ledger that'll be. There's one you can't talk about. You know, you're deducing these things, and then everyone else, like, I feel like that's the only information you needed to know. You're like, okay, Larry Fink, like at BlackRock, can't talk about XRP, and then in another sentence, he goes, we're going to tokenize the entire world and run it across one ledger. I mean, like, can you not? Like, there's a there. And so I tried to tell people there's all this money all over the world, that people have no idea how much money is actually in the world. That's one thing that's become very apparent to me, because they see their life. They see that their car costs $30,000 or $50,000. They see that their house costs $750,000. And then they hear that, like, oh, the market cap of XRP would have to be in the quadrillions for this to work. And they're like, I don't get it. They're like, what? And you're just like, okay, well, the money's already there. And then when they tokenize everything and slap that liquidity on top of what, you know, for one giant decentralized XRP, you know, you got gold is XAU, silver's XAG, XRP is decentralized. And so when people talk about having an exit strategy from XRP, there's nothing wrong with having like a plan, like, for sure, obviously. But like, I equate it to like when people say, like, you know, like, it'd be like saying early on, like, oh, I make sure you have an exit strategy from gold.
The whole point in investing in gold was to maintain your purchasing power as currencies were inflated. You know, like, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, on our channel, I believe that this is all, like, I don't think that it was ever, and this is just me deep dive, I don't think it was ever speculative. You know, all these other projects are, and I believe that they were a happenstance. Like, you know, they saw that, like, what David Schwartz was doing, they saw what Ripple was doing. And then they were like, oh, this is cool. We get a blockchain technology. And then they started making their own projects. Like Ethereum came out, Canton come out, Solana comes out. And all of these projects are struggling. They all have their own little form of like, oh, this doesn't work, or layer ones aren't where we got to go layer 2. And like Solana didn't have enough validators. Like all of these other ledgers are having these issues. There's one ledger not really struggling at all. And then people can't put the there. So I think this was always pre-planned, in my opinion.
I would agree with that statement. I mean, just fast 5 billion transactions on the XRP ledger. It's never gone down. It's only been paused twice. Yeah, if you go back and do research on Ryan Fruger and you look at Arthur Brito and David Schwartz, I'm fairly convinced at this point that the same people that made Bitcoin also made XRP. And, you know, if you listen to David talk about the early days and kind of why it broke off and how it happened, they wanted to make a better Bitcoin.
They say that.
Yeah, literally. And XRP's maintained the peer-to-peer payment, low fee, high transaction throughput, and Bitcoin hasn't, you know. And I think there's multiple pieces to that. When they forked Bitcoin in 2014 or 15 for Bitcoin Cash, they didn't increase the block size, and so then it kind of got relegated to digital gold. But that's also a narrative that needs to be perpetuated, because as things aggregate liquidity and they perform settlement, they get a higher valuation, and over time they become collateral. And that's where I think XRP really gets the majority of its value, is it being collateralized and held. And that's a lot of the opposition that people have. They're like, well, there's this huge supply and it's got high throughput. You really don't need that much of a price in order to be able to facilitate all these transactions. And they're not wrong in that statement, until you look at the available supply to actually facilitate those transfers and what's going to be available in the future when the majority of it's locked up as collateral. And you're already seeing it being locked up as collateral in Flare, on other networks like Solana. You have, you know, wrapped BTC and ETH. Like, you can see the direction all of this is going. And to your point, I think people operate from the paradigm that they exist in today, and those are the constraints that they have. And it's difficult for them to conceptualize or really comprehend all of the money that's in the world. And it's really double that, whatever you think it is, because there's two sides of a ledger, right? Like, you have assets and liabilities, and one person's asset could be another person's liability, and one person's liability might be another person's asset. And that's also the reason we find ourselves in the situation that we're in, is everybody's passed money back and forth the whole time and built up all these derivatives and all these loans and all this debt. And as that moves on to these networks, you know, I remember Quincy Jones was the first person that ever really talked about that. I don't know if you watch much of Quincy's content, but he was a Corda developer before he went to go work at XTC, which I think R3 is going to play a much bigger role in all of this than people really realize. And I don't know that the price is going to move predicated on Ripple's efforts. And I think that's also on purpose, because then it would be a security of Ripple. To your point, this has been well thought out and planned for a long time. If you see all the moves that have happened and the moves that are going to happen, there's no other way that it could have been orchestrated other than very meticulous planning.
I appreciate you saying all that. That's so on point. I want to also add, you don't have to comment to what I'm about to say. Okay. I think the domino theory is revealing a domino plan, and I think you are fucking onto them. And I don't think they like it, you know, to some degree, but I mean, you are coming out there, and that's why I wanted to have you on the channel, mainly because people need to know that you're a real, genuine guy. It drives me nuts, the type of stuff I read about you and the comments and stuff like that. We've gone over that, but like, you know, you're out there. I wanted to mention, it would have been far more dangerous, and I made a whole video about this like a couple months ago. It would have been far more dangerous for you to not have come out and try to warn people that this event's happening. And the reason I call it dangerous is because, like, post price appreciation on XRP, I believe that they intend to crash the system. They want to have a great financial reset. They want to, and so like, yeah, we want the world to go on, and yeah, we want, you know, golden age. Yeah, we want all this, but that may not happen. And I try to warn people on my channel, like, look, this is more serious than just like trying to make a buck. This is not just about wealth. Like, I call this financial warfare, because the same bad actors that were behind the 2019 event are the same people that have the power to power this thing on. It's their baby. They are not going to fail. And I've always said on my channel, I was like, if you are as powerful and wealthy as the top elites in this world, all of your plans would work. Like, every single plan that you have would go swimmingly. And then on top of that, they spend decades pre-planning these things. And so, like, you know, all these people are like waiting. It's like, you've been the best at giving us the signs to look for, is how they're going to power this thing on. And that's what I want to give you the most kudos for, because thanks to you, we can see an in-depth picture from behind the curtain. Because, you know, I've always said, like, you're rubbing shoulders against like giants in the financial industry. You've been able to have conversations that no one else is privy to. And then people still listen to you, and then they're like, I'm not sure.
Which again is fair. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. To your point, I would not have the conviction that I do if I hadn't had all the different opportunities and been blessed to be in certain rooms and have conversations with the, and like I've said before, there's been no one person that's come to me and said, Jake, this is how this is going to go.
Right.
That's never happened. I've just been able to, like I said before, I look for pattern recognition, and I watch a lot of different people on all of their expertise. And in conversations, I try to be strategic and ask things in a way where if somebody wants to share something, cool. If they don't want to share it, also cool. But I've gotten these little gold nuggets from a bunch of different conversations that I've had over the past 4 or 5 years. And that's what's allowed me to connect the dots and then present that in a coherent theory of how this could be orchestrated and play out in order for the perfect storm to transpire and this event to take place. Because that was the deal for me. Like, I'm like, I know this needs to be a high price for this to work. Flipping a switch never made sense to me. Like, could they reprice it? Yeah, I mean, they did with gold, right? But that was after they took it from everybody so that they would have enough to be able to fortify things. You can't take this from people. I mean, you could make it difficult for them to transact and do anything with it because you could be blacklisted from certain systems. But the asset itself has been black holed. They can't print more of it. They can't freeze it. They can't claw it back. There's no counterparty risk. And that's the whole secret sauce with this deal, is why nation states and countries and everybody else would want to utilize this infrastructure, because
the only reason they'd use it. Yeah.
There's no counterparty that can box you out like we have with the SWIFT system. So anyway, all that to say, I try to present things in a way that is plausible, and for me, it makes sense how it would transpire to get there. And I haven't heard anybody else, like outside of the administrative repricing, which would be a flip of the switch, give a coherent thesis on the events that would have to transpire for this to actually, move the needle in a supply and demand dynamic way and push the price to where it needed to be.
Yeah, like a theory around like, how do they power this thing on? Because I've told people on my channel, I'm like, look, the people that did the math when they created 100 billion tokens for the XRP ledger, they were 1,000 times smarter than you with math. They did the math to know how many tokens they'd need. So people are like, oh, they made 100 billion. That's too many. Like, you think you know better than David Schwartz? It's like, so like they intend to power this thing on. They always knew. They knew 100 years ago. I think from the time that they sank the Titanic, and then they sank a few key people against the Fed on the Titanic. Since then, they've had this plan in place, but they had to wait for the technology to play out. They already had the technology, but they had to wait for it to play out to where the world had the technology, because they have to slow cook us. If they were to come out today and say like, oh yeah, when we got this new digital system, you're all going to live in these smart cities and we're going to give you Tesla autopilot taxi cabs, there would be a rebellion. They're far better served, the elitists, they're far better served by us just not knowing what's going on and us just being like docile, going about our day, and then like doing a little bit of crypto research. And then, and so they've built this machine, this financial weapon, I call it, to use against us. But we have this one opportunity, like you said, to attach ourselves to this new financial weapon before they power it on. And that's never happened in the history of the world. So
if you wanted to seek people out that could think critically and participate on the other side of this, the internet's a fantastic way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's not another community that has riddles.
Yeah.
And some of the other cryptographic things that have been done here.
Conspiracy.
The conspiracies and all the stuff. So if you wanted to attract a certain type of person, to invest in things and then have the resources to actually affect change and do stuff, I think that piece has also been very thought through and been methodically placed and done in a certain order. And any PSYOP has misinformation in it also.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, the paid FUD. I mean, even if it's not paid FUD, the organized FUD is insane for XRP.
Well, I just mean like even a lot of the information that's been put out, there's some misinformation alongside the legitimate information for plausible deniability and other things. So you have to then have discernment and critical thinking to decipher which piece of information is correct and what's not, and leave, the different pieces out that aren't part of the full thesis or background. So again, takes a very specific type of individual. So if you wanted to cultivate those skills for certain people and bring certain people into the fold. I think this has all been orchestrated on the financial side. I don't view it as a financial weapon per se. I see it more as, I think we're going to move into like a renaissance period. I think people's normal survival needs will be met on the other side of this transition.
Oh
It's
yeah,
gonna be a rough
robotics,
transition.
yeah.
But on the other side of it, I think quality of life for people comes up substantially, and you'll have the ability to focus on your passions or your hobbies or things that you were put here to do versus just working, 9 to 5 to pay your bills and stressed out about money all the time. And I'm looking forward to that. But it is going to require a big shift in the paradigm that people operate in. Most
Mhm.
people find or derive meaning from their work. And
Yeah.
if that's no longer required because bots and AI and all these other things are going to be producing the majority of the output in GDP for society, we then have to then go internal and like seek out what you were actually put here to do. And most people have never even asked that question, right? Like you've been so consumed with just living your life day to day, got to buy the house, got to buy the cars. You've been sold this dream in a consumer economy in order to continue to power the machine so that we could get to a point like you mentioned that they could roll this stuff out. I mean, if you look at John Maynard Keynes in 1944, what he proposed with the Bancor coin, like that is exactly what this ends up looking like. They just didn't have the technology to be able to facilitate it back then, and so the U.S. dollar and gold ended up winning out in that meeting, and that's got us to this point. But like this concept has been around, and a lot of what we're going through right now, and I think we'll continue to go through over the next decade, was proposed back in the 1930s and 20s.
That's awesome, dude. I knew you had that deep dive about you, and I think a lot of people, they kind of miss that about you. Like I think that they like, I'll be honest. I am a member of Beyond Broke Mastermind. I have yet to log in. I am weird kinds of lazy, but I'm in there for post price appreciation because there's gonna be some shit I want to know, and that's the community to do it in. And so like I'm in there. I just haven't logged in, so I have no idea what it's like in there. But I mean, like I know you say some things on there that you can't say on YouTube, and that's totally fair. But I just think there's this depth to you that I think a lot of people miss, and I wanted to share that depth. And there's obviously a few more things we could talk about XRP, but I don't want to, I want to get to Jake Claver, part 2, if you don't mind. And how are we looking on time? Could we do another 30?
Yeah, we can run another 30 or so.
Okay, perfect. So because I want to talk about you, and then I want to talk about DAG.
Okay.
So Jake Claver, the man behind the curtain of DAG and the domino theory, I wanted to provide an opportunity for Jake to actually be known and understood a bit more. Beyond just his legendary status as the tip of the spear for XRP and DAG, titan of industry, he didn't pay me to say this. This is how I genuinely feel. There are no loaded or malicious questions here. If at any moment you don't feel like answering or can't answer, feel free to say pass or no comment, and we'll move on to the next. No pressure or guilt will be implied here. People deserve to know and understand the legend for who he is and not what they think about you, I think, So to that, I want to say legend because that has become your name within the XRP Army community. Are you okay with that name? Because it's awesome.
It actually came from, again, super humbled and grateful. Like I don't think of myself in that light, but I really appreciate people's kind words. And I was at a fireside chat with Hester Pearson at Georgetown University in, I guess this was February of 23. Well, may have been earlier than that in the year, or late 22. And this is during the Ripple lawsuit, right? And so I'm there, I'm greeting people. We sponsored the event. And when Lauren Belive walks in, she just started at Ripple. She was there, still in the position, I think, U.S. compliance and legal, advocate in D.C. To help them make sure that they're maintaining all the stuff that they need to. And she walks in, and I said, "Hey, I'm Jake Claver. Nice to meet you." And she said, "You're a legend at Ripple." And I was like, "Me? Why? Like, why?" And I was taken aback. Like I didn't even have time to like ask her why or for what purpose or like anything. I was like, thank you very much. It was nice. She was like, "I know who you are." Da, da, da. Anyway, Hester Pierce was like, "I can take questions from anybody in the room except you." She was not taking questions from Ripple at the time. But anyway, so I shared that story on one of the lives, and people ran with it, man. I don't. Anyway,
It's a good one.
Yeah. So that's where that comes from. It's nothing I said, or like, again, just an interaction that I had with one person.
And in my introduction of you at the beginning of this video, I laid out why I think you're a legend. So I think it's dual purpose. It is now applicable entirely. So you've got it, man. I think it'd be funny if you had a license plate that said legend, but I know you're probably too humble to play those games. But it'd be funny because people would know. So I gotta say, man, you get a lot of hate. And I want to say like I said earlier, you know, it seems like people have been like, oh, because he's got a business and he's always promoting his products and stuff like that, that makes what he says and knows like illegitimate almost. Is like what they're trying to imply. And I'm like, how do you deduce that? Like, so somebody like, you know, so convicted about something that he builds an entire business around it. And then that, therefore, because he talks about his business, because it's his pride and joy, his baby, and he's got people relying on him. Like, so then talking about that now makes you invalidated? What are your thoughts on that?
What I've done is selfish, but I operate from a place where I always want to be selflessly selfish. So anything that I do, I try to align outcomes so that the other person gets to win and then I get to win along with them. Most people in today's society believe that life is a zero-sum game. And this is why I think a lot of people have the paradigm around the money that you mentioned earlier. They think that if they make money or somebody else makes money, they make less money, or it's a finite resource that everybody's fighting over. It is abundant. They can print more of it at any moment in time, and they will continue to do so. Energy and value is abundant. And it's infinitely creatable. And so I operate from that paradigm, and I always want to make sure that whatever I'm doing or how we're operating benefits everybody that's participating. And you could say, well, some people win more than others. I don't like that. In transactions, or when somebody comes to our business and wants to be an employee, I literally ask them, where do you want to be in 5 or 10 years? And how do we help you get there? Because I've been at a lot of other places where it was a zero-sum game. The business owner wanted to make all the money. They were not willing to do things for the people that work there. They didn't want to cultivate an environment where people continue to excel. And at some point, we will have people at our business that want to move on and do other things because that's part of their journey and where they want to be. And we will help them get there. Same thing for our clients. I don't think that people will stay with us forever. We'll probably be a pathstone on their journey. And we want to set them up. We want to give them the skills and the resources and the partnerships and the opportunities that allow them to continue to walk in their path and get to the highest level that they want to participate at. And sometimes that doesn't involve all the pieces of our business. We just want to meet people where they're at in their journey, provide them the help and resources that we can at the time, and then, you know, wish them the best if they choose something else. Or, you know, they move to a higher level and some of the resources that we're providing aren't sufficient anymore. I've operated like that in any, you know, personal business that I have ever done. And I don't know, I like I said, I just view the world as abundant. And I don't think that there's scarcity. And I think most people operate from that paradigm. And so I think that's the switch there. And that's where those comments come from. Right. If you operate in a scarcity paradigm and you're living in survival mode and you feel like somebody else is getting something that you're not, then you're upset about that. Mm-hmm. What I hope is that everybody comes to my side of the fence and they realize that things are abundant. The more value you create in society and align incentives with other people, the more good we can all do and the more we can all benefit.
That's awesome, man. And the next one's kind of a funny one. Are you a member of the CIA?
No.
Because like there's conspiracies built around because you grew so fast that it's like, you know, and then like I asked my group, I was like, well, I mean, like they were kind of saying like, well, what's going to happen when one member of the CIA, they were talking about me, does that ask that to another member of the CIA? Like there's like this redundant paradigm. And I'm just like, I just spent 3,000 hours researching this stuff, and you did more time researching this stuff. Like you know these things because you looked for these things, mm-hmm. You know. And I just think that's funny because I was like literally seeing conspiracies and stuff like that. I'm like, this is getting like big, really.
No, Yeah, I have never worked for a government agency.
But I had to throw that in there for fun. People, you get asked this question all the time. Do you have any NDAs?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. But everyone's desperate to know all the time. You know, these things are just like people wonder.
Well, I'll say this: like, an NDA tends to specify certain circumstances or however you're working with the counterparty, right? And I try to walk a line and make sure that I'm not violating any NDAs or say anything about relationships or partnerships or things that we're working on together. But if people say, you know, I share what I can, I guess is my answer. That's
awesome, dude. You do a good job. Sometimes I see you taken aback, like, how can I answer this and give them the best info without? Yeah. There's a there too, guys. I gotta say, so we already kind of talked about, you know, the frustrations of like you becoming so big so fast. So we can skip on that. I do want to ask though, like, I mean, because you're obviously a tough son of a bitch. You're a real person. And I know what it's like to be, you know, attacked for things and stuff like that. Like, you know, I built a small business, and you really can't build any business without some eggs falling out of the freaking carton and breaking. And then you got that to deal with. And then it's like all sorts of, you know, and you're trying to please everybody, but you can't. So like, how does it make you feel like, you know, when people, I guess, like accuse you of negative things or like, you know, have these like catchy, you know, insult nicknames for you and stuff like that? How does that make you feel?
Unfazed.
Unfazed, nice. I'm glad to hear that, because I was like hoping that there wasn't like,
I get, like I said, I guess I just kind of accepted that was going to be part of this deal.
Because you're on the internet.
Well, you're right, and like I mentioned before, most people don't operate from the same paradigm that I do. That again, this is all abundant, and it literally just predicated on your efforts to create value in society. Most people work a job, they're paycheck to paycheck, they're having a hard time. Maybe they had a bad day at work. I try to give people grace, because there's lots of times where I am also upset.
Mm-hmm.
And I might say something or do something that, you know, comes off wrong. You just caught me at the wrong moment. Right. And so anyway, I try to have grace with other people, and I pray for them too.
Yeah, that's great.
Like, if somebody's coming at me sideways for whatever reason, I pray for them.
That's
because
awesome. That's all we can
there's
do.
something going on in their life that's not great, and then they're projecting that, and they're upset about something, or maybe they haven't taken responsibility for some of the decisions that they made in their own life. Nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. You know, just Jesus is the only person that I know is perfect.
One of my favorite quotes, I don't know where I heard this quote from. I want to find it sometime. But it said, God calculated your stupidity before he gave you your plan. Like when he made your plan for you, like I fucked everything up in my life 1,000 times. And somehow I still have a gorgeous wife, like a lovely home, like beautiful babies, and some semblance of a business. And now I'm going to be apparently wealthy because of XRP. It's like, it's nothing to do with us. Like God just wants this for you. You have to be open to receive it. So I wanted to bring this up. This is kind of funny. So the name Claver, have you looked up the name Claver, like what it means, definition? Have you thought that there's a there? Because it means here.
My whole name.
So Claver means keeper of the keys. I mean, could you think of a better definition for your name being the keeper of all these digital keys? And I mean, like that.
Yeah. Most people haven't looked that up. It's actually Clavis is the origin name in Latin, and then it became Claver. My great-great-grandfather, when he came to the U.S., he had Claver, Klaber, and then over time it's been, you know, shortened and changed over to Claver.
Yeah, and it says it was an occupational name for a doorkeeper or someone who guarded a building. I think of like, you know, Anchorage, or like your fortress, you know, like and then I just think that took me back a bit. I was like, that cannot be the meaning of his name, and it is. So where is it? Oh yeah. So there's also historical significance, and this is not to like compare you to someone else. This is just an interesting, I thought this was an interesting fact. It's based on St. Peter Claver, a 17th century Spanish Jesuit priest who dedicated his life to caring for enslaved people. A lot of people are financially enslaved. And what is Jake Claver's number one goal? To financially give freedom or help people get to financial freedom, 1 million people. So what a coincidence there. I love that was your name and that's who it's based on. So
Thank
cool
you.
beans.
I appreciate that. That's also something that I've come to the realization of over the past couple of years too. So it's not like I knew any of that. I just started the company and did all this stuff before I did the research and was like, spelling is a thing.
Yeah. I love it. So what's most important to you as a person?
Oh man. I've had probably a lot of deep conversations with myself about that. Creating an impact and providing value in society and creating opportunities for other people. If I could be remembered for one thing, that's what it would be.
That's dope, dude. I love that. And I get the feeling from you that that's what you're trying to do. How did you find your faith and how does it affect your personal life and business?
Grew up going to Baptist church, like hardcore Baptist church. After my grandmother passed away when I was 12, we stopped going to church on a regular basis. That's what we did with her every Sunday. I really didn't find my way back to religion until really my early 20s. Started doing a lot of research about the Bible and different religions, and I've always had an interest in other cultures and like why other religions exist and wars and all the things that have preceded religion. And so, looking through different scriptures and, I can't recite verses of the Bible or we have a lot of community members and good people in the XRP community that are preachers or have a strong affinity and belief in God and Christianity. And I think there's also a there. If you look at like the Knights Templar and the X and all the stuff, or the hooked X. Anyway, so it really kind of, after I stopped bodybuilding in 2019, I competed at my last show in Miami, nationals. I was like 225, 230 pounds at about 5% body fat. I dedicated 10 years to that objective, and I pretty much reached my goal. Like I looked exactly how I wanted to look, and I wasn't good enough for the judges. And then I came home and, they wanted me to go to bodybuilding. So I pushed up and was like 260-ish at around 9% body fat. And my heart and other health conditions decided that my body does not like that. My boy was young at the time, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like I'm not making money from it. I'm probably going to kill myself.
Yeah.
So, had a hard come to Jesus moment on that one. And pivoted, and I was, I've spent same thing, like as diligent as I am about researching crypto and business and finance, I poured all that time into bodybuilding, researching pharmaceuticals and diet and training. And like, that's probably the other vertical that I would be as versed on as I am crypto.
That's badass.
But I pivoted and I turned all my attention toward this. And, I sat down, I remember sitting down in February of that year and pray. It was the first time I really prayed hard.
Wow.
In a long time. And I said, look, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to give it up to you. You tell me where I'm supposed to go with this thing. And what I got was not what I thought I was going to get. I was told that I'm supposed to manage a large amount of money.
Wow.
And sit on the board of the top 10 most progressive companies in the world.
Wow.
So at the time, I was like, me? Like, how is that going to happen? But I've held that vision and I pray on it a lot. Think about it every day and talk to good Lord upstairs. And at this point, that seems like that's a possibility, 5-6 years later.
It looks trajectory like you're headed that way. Yeah. And can I just ask, like, a minute ago, I noticed, I feel like you felt the spirit on you in that moment. That was pretty powerful stuff. So thank you for your vulnerability on this channel and sharing with us these things. I think people deserve to know about you. I'm honestly sick of all the FUD. I'm sick of all the Jake haters. I'm sick of it all. I'm not, tolerant of it. You're doing a mission, is what you're doing. I got confirmation from my mom yesterday, and my wife was able to give some confirmation from my wife, because my next question was about your wife. My wife hates XRP. She is so sick of hearing about XRP and how I entered at the top of their bear market. Yeah. I have only ever had unrealized losses and realized losses in crypto and XRP. That didn't change my conviction 0.01%. I know what their plan is. I know that the charts are all pre-planned psyops and that they have cartoons written on the wall. That's why the Riddlers use cartoons, because it's all pre-planned, pre-drawn psyops, and David Schwartz is just out there sending little like nods to us and stuff like that. But how did you meet your wife, and how does she feel now at this point, this late stage in the game about XRP? Is she holding up okay?
Yeah. So in my early 20s, I was teaching country dance lessons in Dallas. And I'd gone over to another bar that was associated with one that I was teaching lessons at, and watched another instructor. And I was there super early, and it was ladies' night. And her and her friend were the first two people that walked in the bar after the dance lessons were over. And I just pulled her on the floor. I said, "Let's dance," because she's the only one there. She was better looking than her friend. And so anyway, she wanted nothing to do with me. I was underage. I was actually still 20 at the time, and she was 26. And I couldn't buy her drinks. We danced one song. We tried to ask her about herself. She did not seem like she was interested at all. And anyway, I was part of this Facebook group. It's called Country Dancing at DFW. We had started out of UNT, which is where I was going to school. And at the time, I think we maybe had like 300 or 400 people on that Facebook group. Today, it's like 30,000 people. Like it is the largest country dancing group in Dallas.
Wow.
Anyway, we would just be like, "Hey, we're going to this bar, wherever we're going dancing that night." And anyway, I saw she was part of the group, and she friended me a couple days later. And then, I dropped in the DMs, and the rest is history.
That's awesome.
But the point that you made earlier about your wife not wanting to hear another word about XRP, for 4 years, my wife was that way. She was like, "This is stupid. I don't know why you're doing this. Like, I can't see how this is going to happen." And it was also my fault, because I'm like, "Oh, it's happening soon. Like this is it. Like we got it. It's going to be like next month. And so at a point, like, you just get tired of that."
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of soul searching. I recognize the environment that I created to create the animosity against myself.
Yeah.
But I think she's come around on it at this point. She helps with the business. Obviously she brings me tea on the lives, and like she understands the community aspect for sure. Like she gets that there's a there. There wouldn't be this many people that see this if it wasn't going to be something.
Yeah.
I don't know that she believes in the high valuation that I do. She's like, "We'll throw a party when it gets to $7." Okay. Like we just want some green on the board. But
blip.
Streamers, but yeah, I think, and this isn't to be sexist or anything, I think most women value security.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, not even just women, have a lower risk tolerance than people that participate in crypto. And so for those reasons, I can understand why she would feel the way that she does, and most people's spouses feel the way that they do. I mean, we have over 17,000 people there in the mastermind. I get to talk to a lot of spouses that come to the events that are very skeptical of all of this and what's going on. They think it's a cult, and in some aspects I would agree with that. Like, it has a lot of the same feelings as a cult.
Oh yeah, except for we don't put XRP between us and God. That's the only difference.
Right.
Like definition.
So Yeah, she's come around on it, but she's still not. She doesn't have the conviction that I do, for sure.
Yeah. I think I believe, and I made a whole video about this, and Cashew Nate's made a couple really good videos about it. I believe God chose a few people. There may be 50,000 of us and maybe 100,000 of us, but he chose a few people to hold this asset. And a lot of them didn't even know why. And my mom said something yesterday that brought me to tears on the phone as she was kind of explaining it to my wife, because my wife was having a hard time saying, why is he doing this YouTube channel? Why is he wasting his time with this? And I was like, it's just a family we've built here. And my mom confirmed it to my wife, and I hadn't even thought of it this way. My mom said, a lot of these believers have been chosen and told to hold this digital asset for some reason, XRP, and all Chris is doing is being on there confirming that for them. I was like, wow. And it brought me to tears, man. Kind of like you just like 10 minutes ago, brought me to tears. I felt the spirit come on me. I was like, wow. And so my mom confirmed that she's a pastor. She's the most devout woman of God I've ever met in my entire life. And then she produced like this, whatever this is, like some sort of, insane ADHD deep dive conspiracy crypto bro that like aspires to be a stand-up comedian. I mean, it's literally like nowhere near my mom. Like it's the wildest thing. So I want to ask you this real quick. So can we go to an hour 40? Because it'll depend on.
I can hang out. I can go a little bit over.
Okay, because I just wanted to ask you a couple more personal questions and then get to DAG. Yep. So could you tell us just like maybe we'll actually go down to like just quicker answers, because like I want you to get to say these things about these things. So what can you tell us a little bit about like your relationship with your mom and dad and like how they affected your life and growing up?
Oh man, I don't know if I can make that one quick.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I grew up pretty white privilege, just candidly, right? Like it's not like we were poor. My parents were well-to-do. My dad did pretty well for himself. My mom was a teacher. She had much higher level of education than my father. My father got his associate's degree and then worked in computer science. Did schedule cost control for construction projects for the majority of his career. He was probably top 5 people in the world for that.
Wow.
Money was always a problem in my house. Never had enough of it. And it was the primary reason for my parents' divorce right after I graduated high school.
Sorry to hear that, man.
But I mean, again, like part of what makes me who I am and how I think about things. I was actually very happy when that happened because it was a pretty toxic environment at my house with my parents for 3-4 years. I was ready for them to get a divorce. Had a pretty large impact on my brother, which didn't turn out so great. But my dad's paradigm around money, my mom will die with nothing. She will spend every last dime. She's not here to save it up for her grandkids or any of that, which is fine. I mean, that's how her parents raised her and that's what they did. And then my dad was a miser. Like he wanted to hoard as much money. Again, the scarcity thing, right? Like he felt like there was never enough. He was always trying to save for retirement, running on the hamster wheel.
Scrooge vibes?
Somewhat, like one of the things I dislike about my dad was he would do things for you and then hold it over your head and act like you owed him something for it, even though like he's your dad, know? So, anyway, I try to employ so people don't know this. I have my last name tattooed on my back. Very like Hispanic Old English. Okay?
Really?
Like, yeah. I have a Skins jersey.
Wow.
It's the only tattoo that I have. And it's to remind me of all the things that I do and don't want from my parents' marriage.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing all this, man. I mean, I want to let I want to let people watching this know, I didn't give him like a list. You can attest that I didn't give you a list of questions. I just wanted to ask real world questions. I'm shocked you're answering every single one because I expected a couple of them for you to say like, no comment or like maybe that's too sensitive. You're being like out in the open, and I appreciate you for that, man. I respect the hell out of you for that. That's not an easy thing to do, especially at your level of what you're doing. So thank you for doing that. I wanted to ask a couple other questions. This one I think is important. What are your love languages? Because post price appreciation, people all around the world are going to want to show their appreciation to you. It'd be nice if they knew how, because we all know you sure as fuck don't need any money.
I as a man, physical affection, and then words of affirmation are my two. My wife is not those. She is very much gifts and acts of service,
Mm-hmm.
and probably quality time too.
Yeah, a lot of us are multiple.
Yeah. So, I mean, everything's on a spectrum, right? Everybody wants some piece of the different love languages. To what degree is different per person. But yeah, I mean, those gifts are great. People send me stuff all the time, and I really do appreciate all the stuff that people do. They're awesome. People send stuff to the office, or like, I'm not trying to discount any of that. I appreciate anything that anybody does for us. You know, sending things and showing their appreciation. But yeah, like, I don't need much. I'm like, the ones that probably resonate the most, and most people that send a gift do this too. They'll write a card, or they'll send me a DM or something, and just let me know, like, this has actually helped them and impacted their life, what I'm doing. And that's what makes all of this worth it for me.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear, man. Because for me, like, my channel is just growing. It's just this little channel. It's like blah, blah, blah. But it's like the family that it instantaneously formed blew my mind. I thought, because I made a video, that my most watched video ever, and I did a revised version recently on my lives. It was called Bitcoin versus XRP, the greatest pre-planned showdown of all time, or should I say PSYOP. And I was tired when I made that video. It was like 3 a.m. I had light in my eyes, and I got like a cataract. I was almost bored in that video because I've already gone over this stuff in my head 1,000 times. That was like my #1 hitting video. And I was like, people are ready to hear this. I had no idea that people were ready to hear how deep this space actually goes. I thought maybe 100 people would watch it. And then like everyone came and watched that video. So it's kind of hilarious. I have a question. Can we hear just a little bit about fat, nerdy, teenage Jake Claver? Because when you said that on a live, like, I almost wanted to say pictures or it didn't happen.
Oh, I've got the photos. I don't share those publicly.
I bet.
So third grade, I remember being skinny till I was about 6 or 7. Third grade, and 6, 7. I started eating ice cream every single day at lunch, and I didn't think anything of it, you know, like, just, you know, one of those drumsticks, you know. But I packed on like a lot of weight from that, and my parents ate fast food. We didn't really have good food habits in my house, and like, they didn't, you know, just normal parents, right? Like, if you wanted some candy or whatever, they gave it to you. So I haven't weighed less than 160 pounds since I was about 12 years old, and I was not as tall as I am now when I was 12. You can imagine
The weight went somewhere.
Yeah. And then about 3rd grade is when I got glasses. I remember the nurse telling my mom that I was blind as a bat. She didn't really like that, but it was true, and I still am without contacts. So wore glasses, and then, you know, I was super into like Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon and like all the other stuff, you know, that was around when I was
Super Saiyan. Sorry, I just had to.
exactly,
I had to join there in that moment. I'm a nerd too.
Yu-Gi-Oh, all the stuff. And so, you know, I had a pretty rough transition. I went to middle school and we moved, and all the friends that I had growing up that kind of knew who I was and I was, you know, close to, my 7th grade year, I was able to talk to about 3 people at school, and was completely ostracized. And part of it's self-imposed, right? Like, I was very awkward, socially awkward, couldn't communicate well. And anyway, my 7th grade summer, my dad bought a Bowflex and worked out all summer. And that was like the first time that like I changed my appearance in a material way. And I went back to school and was treated completely different.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, this is how the world works.
Yep.
Like, perception matters dramatically on how other people think and treat you. So, and that's what got me on the workout kick and all the other stuff. But yeah, that was, you know, I was picked on, I was ostracized, I was all those things. And so I don't like to do that. I don't do that to other people because I know what that's like. Have a lot of compassion and empathy for people that
I can tell. You can see your compassion and empathy through the fucking screen. So yeah, it's there, man. And I think that's really, really a cool story. So these are 3 quick questions, then we'll get to DAG. So you could do like 15-second answers if you want. Have you considered what kind of security detail you and your family may need after being like one of the world's first liquid trillionaires?
Yes.
Yeah. So good. God, I was curious. I was like, you're gonna be out there like Elon Musk with like 8 football players.
We have private security and many different vendors that we work with at DAG to be able to help other people, not just myself, with that.
And then when they do get through your security, they got to get to the final boss, 6'1", 235 pounds. So I mean, you're like a video game like character, man. And so anything you'd like to share with XRP Army that you haven't had the opportunity or a platform to say, because like no one's ever asked you, either personal or crypto related, that like you'd like to share with the community, you know, just at any given point in time.
There's a lot of things that I think I'll be able to say this time next year.
Nice. So we'll get there.
Yeah.
So after number go up, you will be damn near unreachable, which is why I messaged Sydney when I did, because I was like, oh shit, we had that little baby 70% pump. I was like, he's about to be unreachable. And so I said, any message you want to share with the XRP family so they can understand that you're not going to try to be unreachable. And that they still mean just as much to you as, you know, because that's going to be something that they're going to be like, oh, Jake's, you know, too big for us now. Is there a message you want to share?
I mean, I've said this on a couple lives here recently, but you don't see Larry Fink, you don't see Brad Garlinghouse doing lives on YouTube. There's at a certain level, and also, like I mentioned before, my objective is not to be super famous and out in the public eye and all of that. I would like to maintain some privacy and anonymity and, you know, enjoy my life with my family without continued disruption or unwanted attention from not so good things. So to your point, you know, it's not because as this grows and I do step back publicly, it is not because I don't care or don't love everybody just as much as I did before. It's really just to protect myself and make sure that I'm able to continue doing all the things that I'm supposed to be doing to provide for everybody that's counting on stuff that we're looking to create and provide the community.
That's awesome, man. That's a great answer. So let's get to DAG, because you've built this massive infrastructure in a very quick period of time. And people are like, how did you do it? What were the largest hurdles or unexpected obstacles in the way of creating DAG?
We have another hour?
I do. I got all day for you, brother. I'm not as busy as you.
I got a cut for our CFO meeting.
Yeah. You let me know.
I mean, there's so many different things. None of this exists or existed. I wanted all this done in a very specific way. I wanted my assets segregated from everybody else. I didn't want it pooled. I wanted bankruptcy remote. I wanted it insured. I want all of the assurances that you get in TradFi when you trade stocks, right? With an FBO account in your name, with beneficiaries on it, able to be held in a trust. And, you know, none of these institutions built any of it this way. They've just been curating it toward retail because that's where the audience was and the institutions didn't care. And high net worth individuals aren't willing to take the risk, most of them, to participate in this asset class. They want regulatory compliance, and they also want all these other assurances that I just mentioned before they're willing to even allocate a portion of their portfolio to it. So without the money being there, the institutions, they were like, well, we'll just curate products for retail. We'll make these ETFs, you know, they can get distribution. They don't have to hold the underlying asset. We can deal with all the compliance and security, and we can clip a fee for it. But the people that are already here that hold these assets, you're just kind of left out in the wind, you know? And so, you know, we've started with standard custody before Ripple made that acquisition. We were not a wealth manager back then. I didn't really intend to do the wealth management thing at all when I first started this, to be honest with you. It's just become like a necessity in order to be able to accomplish, you know, to help the people in the capacity that I want to.
Yeah, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, like that was not the intent, you know. I had a couple people early on in Twitter be like, you're going to end up managing money. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I just want to create a solution that people have like access to this stuff, but I don't. And I don't today. Like, I have no licenses. I own the firm. I have no access to PPI or people's accounts or anything. Like, if you get a message from me on any social media platform that says move your stuff somewhere, it's a scam. I have no access to even be able to facilitate it. But we've been able to hire really good people. And, you know, my time in M&A and going through build to sell, and John Warlow's class. It's paid a lot of dividends because I'm able to manage things correctly, and I'm able to look at the metrics in the company and like make sure that we're creating the most value for what we're doing, and structured stuff the right way. But really, like, hiring good people has made all the difference, because there's no way I could do this myself. Again, partnership with Max early on for the mastermind and all the other stuff that we've done there. And he's been instrumental in the building of the company also. Without him, this doesn't exist. We were able to hire Erin Freeze early on. She saw the vision for the company and gave up a job at FTSE Russell, or the London Stock Exchange, to come work here after she was the head of crypto at PNC. And she's a super A player. She's been able to continue to bring on just stellar people to the company to be able to execute at a high level. And yeah, like I said, I could spend an hour going through all the little nuance and like hurdles that we've had to overcome.
Another
And
episode.
We have more. Like I said, the infrastructure is still nascent. We've created it, and we have a lot of proprietary IP and ways that we've been able to structure it to be able to facilitate business at scale that just doesn't exist in the market, which is cool because it's kind of like a moat. But I know eventually other people will catch up, and I'm not ignorant to that fact.
I was gonna say you're kind of like a mini Ripple in a way, like in a way.
Like, we have about the same amount of XRP as Evernorth.
Oh yeah, that's huge. I mean, that's awesome. So
our clients have that XRP. We help them manage it.
That's awesome. So we got a few minutes here left, and then you got to go because you got your busy day ahead of you. And thanks again for coming on. It's been good having you. What have been like your best memories, or just a memory? What's your best memory from building DAG?
There have been euphoric highs and like horrible lows.
It's a crypto chart.
Yeah, it's a crypto chart for sure. Like, there was a day last year in May where we had multiple conversations that was like, this is the unlock for the business. It's going to completely change how things operate. I remember being euphoric in that moment and super excited. Key hires, key partnerships that we've been able to accomplish. Watching the price move in, late 24 into early 25, it really kind of cemented in my mind, like, the trajectory of the company and how this works over the long term, right? Like, before that, it was like, okay, it's trending 30 to 50 cents here. And like, I know that this move is going to come at some point, but to watch the AUM scale, like in a vertical line, and see and also our clients be happy, right? Like to see how excited everybody was when it was finally moving, and to see here recently the same kind of momentum. I get happy when other people are happy, when other people accomplish things or are moving closer to their outcomes that they want. Like that's cool for me. I had one the other day that was cool. We got a lady on our sales team. She came into the office and had a meeting. And I try to talk to everybody there are people at the corporation I've never met, right? Like I say that I meet everybody. There's a new hire. They meet with me once a month. So I get to meet them when they first come on, but I don't know them. Like, I would love to know everybody personally at the company, but you get past a certain point, it's hard to do that.
There's only so much time.
And we're decentralized, right? Like, people are all over the US. We do remote work, and we have a couple offices that people come into. But she came into the office, and I got to talking to her, and she said, with my last paycheck, I paid off all my debt.
Wow.
And I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
As a business owner, like, people are making progress in their own personal goals in life. And to hear that from somebody that works at the company, it was a highlight for sure.
That's freaking awesome, dude. You're definitely on a mission for sure. And I just want to say that. I also felt earlier, I should say, because I only have a couple of questions left for you, because then I can finally free you to your day. But I wanted to say, and I felt like I should say it, and it may mean nothing to you, but I wanted to say, I felt like when you have the conviction to help 1 million people become financially independent, I felt like you should count the people descendants of, and I hope you are. I hope you will.
I don't, so I talk about BHAG, or, big, hairy, bodacious goal that you probably can't accomplish in your lifetime.
Every one of my goals.
Right. Like, but I think if you're striving for that is what gives you fulfillment on things. And so to your point, I don't know that I'm going to be able to accomplish the million in my lifetime, but I am going to count the descendants in that, and hopefully, we get to that type. And I think that we will, if you're counting that piece.
You'll just be watching it happen and play out from a different dimension with gold streets, which is awesome, dude. That's a legacy. So what are your, and these last ones, you can answer them as quick as you want. What are your plans over the next 12 months after price with DAG?
Again, we could do a whole another hour.
Yeah.
International expansion, tons of products and solutions. The first ever group to be able to do institutional DeFi at scale for the client base, utilizing the XRP ledger and the infrastructure that they're building with the amendments and everything else. Yeah, just continue to roll out cool products on the insurance side. There's a ton of stuff that we're working on that will provide an end-to-end solution. And to your point earlier, Ripple's created Ripple One with the acquisitions that they've made. It's a vertically integrated stack where they can provide anything that an enterprise would need for stablecoins. We want to do the same for wealth management at scale for anybody that makes their wealth in crypto. So, you can run down the rabbit hole and think about all the things that would be necessary in that outcome. We want to be a one-stop shop for anything and everything that would meet those needs.
That's awesome, brother. That's good stuff. I have a couple just quick questions here. Who's like your closest relationship in DAG, and like the people, like maybe a couple people you're the most grateful for that are with you at DAG that have your back?
Max
I know
Avery.
they all have your back, but what I mean.
Max Avery for sure. I talk to him multiple times a day. Aaron Freeze. Got some new hires that I've cultivated really good relationships with. Krista Marabella, she's our chief of strategy and product. Martha, she's our COO. We have a new GC, Robert, which we announced. We have the PR around that today. He came from Franklin Templeton. Those are the people, C-suite is who I normally interact with on a daily basis, being the chairman. But Mike, I'll give a shout out to Mike, Living Legacy. You would know him if you were in the Discord group. He's an OG. He's been here the whole time. And there's a few other people at the company that have been here since the beginning that have been really instrumental in our ability to scale and also take care of our clients, because they care as much as I do. It's hard to name everybody, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
There's probably another 5 or 6.
Another hour.
Yeah.
Will you come back on our show maybe in like a few weeks or a month, and we can have a whole different conversation about a whole different XRP, I feel like. But I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure to have you on, and I do want to free you up for the rest of the day. So any final thoughts for yourself?
I mean, if you could take one thing away from this one, just the abundance mindset. I think, like I said, I think a lot of people operate from scarcity. We have a lot of core values at DAG. If it comes in the welcome letter, we talk about them, on our weekly stand-ups and a monthly, well, they're quarterly now, all hands for the company. But being selfishly selfish, operating in abundance, like I said, the world is abundant. There's more energy and frequency than any one person can handle. And if somebody's making money or doing well, it doesn't mean that you're not, right? Like, they're not taking anything out of your pocket. And the people that I've seen that have done exceptionally well in their life, they operate from the same framework. They're not, zero sum. I had this paradigm around rich people that they were bad people because that was given to me by my father. Like I said, he would miser money because he felt like it was scarce. That the people that I talk to on a regular basis that have done exceptionally well and been by all means successful to most people, they believe the same. Like, just create as much value as you can for other people, help as many other people as you can with whatever product or service or your purpose for being here, and you're well taken care of. So and write things down. I do think that spelling is a thing. Like you said, my last name fits very well for everything that we're trying to accomplish.
What a cool maybe coincidence or appointment.
Divine, yeah.
That's awesome, brother. Well, I will free you back to your insanely busy day. Thank you for extending this interview so that I could get to, like, you know, I think a lot of people in the comments are really appreciative to get to see a different side of you that I think is like really important, because you're a genuine dude. You're out here trying to do this thing, and then all of a sudden people just come out and say a bunch of stuff. So I appreciate you coming on the live. I hope to have you on again soon, probably post price appreciation, which is fine with me. Do you want to do your outro?
Nothing here is financial advice, only for entertainment and educational purposes. You should always speak with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions, and any opinions I shared today are my opinions and not the opinions of Digital Ascension Group. Thank you, sir, for having me on the group. God bless, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Nice.